Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.
Maybe talk to us about your journey with DynoRod and how you first became interested and involved in the business.
Well, it goes back a long way, Karl. Over 40 years ago, I saw a DynoRod operator cleaning a drain in Dublin in the Mespil filling station in Bagot Street there, just opposite the Mespil Hotel. And being a curious young fellow as I was, I went over and I asked him what he was doing, and he told me he was cleaning the drain using this, back then, very fancy machine. So I watched him, what he was doing, and we chatted a small bit, and I asked him how much he was being paid for it, and he told me, and it amounted to nearly a week's wages for me, so I was very impressed by that. And we talked about the business for a while, and life went on, and I was speaking to my father only a couple of weeks later, and he asked me had I ever heard of this company called Dyno-Rod. I said I'd spoken with this guy on a job, and they were offering a franchise in Cork at that time. They already had a franchisee in Dublin, and my dad asked me would I be interested in going after it. I was only a young fellow, 23 years of age. I said I'd be delighted. Off with me to England to talk to them, negotiated the deal with them, and came back to Ireland a month later, fully trained and ready to go in the Cork area.
So provide us with an insight into the full range of services provided by DynoRod.
Well, currently it starts with our domestic drain cleaning market, which we're very proud of the service we give there and have been doing all the years. And the rest of the business has really grown out of that. It went from that into problem solving in drains when somebody calls you back for the second time and they're not sure why you're there a second time. Did you not do the job properly the first time? So you put a camera down the drain and you check it out and you give it a full medical. And more often than not, you'll find out that there is a problem down there, a physical problem, structural problem. And then you can offer the solution on fixing that. So that brings you into surveying and tracing drains and making sure where they're going where they're supposed to go, and that they're doing what they're supposed to do. If they're not, then you offer the service of fixing that and offering the solution. That takes you into all sorts of no-dig technology for putting in patches and relining existing pipes and relining manholes, and it's a whole industry out there in that end of the business.
So you became a franchisee for DynoRod in the Cork market. So talk to us about the first couple of years involved in building that business out.
The first couple of years were very exciting because there was never a service like this in Cork or indeed in Ireland before, where you had an immediate response to emergency drain problems. And we had some very interesting times going selling this concept, and it slowly caught on. And I'd say it was word of mouth in the end that made it work, because we had some very interesting calls. There was one that we used to have our communications were pretty basic at the time, but we had bleepers by Pageboy, which are now VoxPro, which we're still using, another famous car company. And I stopped my van to take a message off this bleeper, and the message on the bleeper was the address of the house and the name. And I looked up, I was actually parked outside the house. So I went up and I knocked on the door, and the lady who was on the phone was actually putting the phone down as I knocked on the door. Now you can imagine her reaction when she saw me standing outside the door, having made the phone call 5 seconds earlier.
That was some coincidence, wasn't it?
It was a fabulous coincidence, and we've had a few other coincidences like that over the years, which have formed the business in one way or another. And a lot of business is luck and persistence and offering the service and standing over it and being there when you're needed.
And I understand that the business for you started in the domestic market and then, in a very unusual way, developed your business into the industrial and commercial space. Yeah,
the first big industrial break we got was when they were building IFI down here in Cork all those years ago. And I've been calling to them, selling our services for a couple of months and really not getting anywhere. And I got a call one night to come down and do some pre-commission cleaning on boiler tubes, thousands of boiler tubes. And off I went, and I was wondering where this job came from. And I was there in the middle of the night, saw on the desk in one of the Portakabin offices a copy of my sales invoice, or one of my sales invoices, and sure enough it was from a domestic house in Douglas. from about 3 weeks before on a Saturday night, cleaning their toilet. They were having people in for a bit of a party, and this guy was the contracts manager for this factory, this construction site. And on the strength of the service we gave him on that Saturday night, he called us into the pre-commission cleaning on their boiler tubes, and we subsequently worked in IFI until they closed down a couple of years ago.
And talk to us about the opportunity for you to take over the Dublin franchise area along the way.
Yeah, we were about 10 years into it. We had an operation in Limerick, small operation in Limerick, and that was running well. And the Bill Skelly in Dublin, who had the franchise up there, sold out to his general manager at the time, and the general manager didn't want to run on with the DynoRod brand for a number of reasons, and he started trading under a different name. So I went to the UK and I told them that which it was affecting our business in Cork, not having a national coverage anymore. So they asked me would I take it on, and they offered me very favourable terms because I didn't have any great amount of capital behind me at the time. So I took it on there and took on two partners in Dublin, Kieran and Colin, and both of them were long-term partners. We were partners for well over 20 years. Colin went off, resigned from the business after about 22 years, sold out, and Kieran and I bought him out, and then Kieran went again about 5 years ago now. He wanted out, so I bought him out as well, so I ended up the whole lot in my lap. And I have a very good guy running the business up there. He's the managing director of the business now. And he's been with us again for a long time. He came into me as a 16-year-old, and that's another story. He's managing director now. So it's been a eventful journey.
You've been involved with DynoRod as a franchisee for 44 years, but something happened recently that's very unusual in the world of franchising, where you had the opportunity to buy out the trademarks for DynoRod in Ireland.
Yeah, that was a huge opportunity when we came up to sign our fourth consecutive 10-year franchise agreement, taking us from year 40, would have taken us from year 40 to year 50. The DynoRod business in the UK was more and more concentrated in their British Gas contracts, and indeed they're owned by British Gas, stroke Centrica. So it was becoming less relevant to the type of business that we were running over here. We were running a business service in the domestic market, on demand, and a fairly large industrial market. So I put it to them that they would possibly sell the brands to me, cheeky man that I am. They didn't say no, but they did quote a ridiculous figure. So we let it sit for a while, and they came back somehow, or I was in the right place at the right time. At board level in Centrica, they had decided that they didn't want to trade in Ireland as DynoRod. I don't know why, but they decided, and I was in the right place to pick it up. We struck a price, we struck a deal, and there was a big workout involved, a 4-year workout, which has just finished now in earlier this month. Finally, everything was signed, sealed, delivered, and paid off. So that was a unique opportunity, a very special moment. Very proud of the way that my team here, my guys in Cork here and in Dublin, worked through that for the last 4 years. It was fairly heavy going.
After taking over the ownership of the DynoRod brand here in Ireland, what are your plans now to grow this brand?
First of all, we're going to consolidate our own business, and we're investing fairly heavily in equipment in both the franchised operations in Dublin and in Cork. We bought the franchise with another company, so the central company, which is Crowley Services Ireland, holds the franchise for Ireland, and the two existing companies are franchised into that at the moment. It's the best way to manage it, to be honest with you. So we will take on further franchisees into that, and we will grow the existing franchisees. We're going to use the money that's been freed up after the buyout to invest in heavy equipment, which is in our business. The heavy equipment can run from up to £500,000 in value. So you don't need an awful lot of those, or you don't have to buy a lot of those to get up to £4 million. And these would be big trucks and recyclers and dewatering plants and all the heavy equipment that we need for the industrial market.
So you've expressed an interest by growing this business through the franchise route. So what's your plan in that respect?
Our plans are pretty fluid at the moment, but we have traditionally struggled to operate owner-operated operations in the northwest and in the southeast. And we're looking at the possibility of franchising those areas particularly. That's Sligo, Donegal and Waterford, Wexford, South Kilkenny area in the southeast. And we're talking to one or two people at the moment who've come in from that article in the paper, who have spoken to us. Obviously, we'll have to firm it all up in the next 6 months to a year and move forward on that.
And why do you feel that the owner-operator model didn't work in those particular areas?
Communications weren't then what they are now, so maybe it would be different now. But communications were a problem, and controlling the reaction and the performance of the operators over 80 miles away from base in the case of Waterford, Wexford, and over 120 miles away from base in the case of Sligo, was difficult. And we failed. We didn't do it properly, and I know that you learn from your failures, and we know what not to do, and we're trying to work out what we should do. And I think franchising is probably the way to go down that. If you give owner-operator responsibility to the people in the area, give them an opportunity to make a good living under a good umbrella, under a good brand, and offer our service on a truly nationwide basis, than which we are doing at the moment, but we struggle in the distance areas from our bases in Limerick, Galway, Dublin and Cork.
So from your 44 years of experience with DynoRod, Peter, what do you think would make a great franchisee?
He would certainly need to be youthful, I'm not saying young, youthful in attitude, energetic, obviously intelligent, with possibly a background in construction stroke service industry, a person who is able to think on his feet, and personable in the way that they could approach prospective customers and sell the service. And it's about persistence and service. If you persist in your sales and give a good service, the work will come in, and you just have to be patient. And when you've got customers who will use you in preference to any other service because you can solve their problem, no matter what that problem is, if it's not something you can do yourself, you should be able to refer them to somebody who can do it. So they need to be a good problem solver, good thinker, able to think laterally and on their feet. And that's about it, really. We can train them, and we can train them in all the technicalities and technology that we use. And our communication system now is far superior to obviously what it was 5-10 years ago. We can give live coverage to our clients from the van, on the internet, on their screens. So we can do a survey in Waterford, show the results live on the screen in Chicago, and have a decision made on what they're going to do with their drain, straight into the van, and we put that in operation. Everything covered, photographs, paperwork, the whole lot, all done on site in real time. So that's the sort of technology that we have available to us now, and all our vans are run in that way under that system.
And Peter, what would a typical day in the life of a DynoRod franchisee look like?
Well, I can tell you what it looked like for me when I started. You quite often didn't have anything booked when you got up in the morning. It's essential to get up early. I would then go to a targeted client. A sales call would be my first job in the morning usually. By the time you got the sales call done, your phone would have rung. You'd more than likely have your first job in, or maybe you might have 2 or 3 booked at that stage. So if you had nothing in to start in the morning, by the time you had done 1 or 2 sales calls and a bit of paperwork, you'd probably find that you were out on site. And once you're on site, it grows from there exponentially, because when you're busy, and anyone in business will tell you this, when you're busier, you tend to get busier. And if you're out there giving the service, performing your tasks, you'll find that people are practically tapping you on the shoulder saying, look, we need you down here as well. Or you'll find that you're working in a house, as I said earlier, for the factory manager for the local chemical plant or whatever it is, and they say, come down and talk to our maintenance man down there. I'm sure he has work for you.
And Peter,
and that is the way it grows.
Peter, this year you're celebrating 44 years in business. You've had great success over the years. You've grown a business to 7 million in turnover with 57 staff. What advice would you give to anybody starting out on their entrepreneurial journey today?
Follow the money. Make sure that you control your cash flow. Persistence is the single biggest attribute that I would look for. You just have to persist. And when you're tired and you don't want to do any more, you get out and you do it again. And I can remember staring at the walls when I was a young fella starting out, and one week we got as far as Thursday before a job came in. And I'd said to myself, if nothing happens by Thursday night, I'm going to have to start seriously thinking about where we're going with this business. I think on Thursday night we worked right through the night and all through the weekend after it. Something happened. And that's what you need. You need persistence, and you need to look after your customers, because they are gold dust. They are the business. And in Ireland, you can't give service to somebody once. You need to be absolutely sure that they're going to use you again and again and again, because we only have 4.5-5 million people on the island, and if you don't service your customers properly, they will talk to each other and they'll disappear very quickly. Whereas if you do, they equally talk to each other, and you will never look back.
Peter Crowley of DynoRod, many thanks for joining us on this morning's show. You're currently interested in hearing from people about this franchise opportunity in the Southeast. If they want more information about DynoRod, where can they get it?
They can visit our website, dynorod.ie.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
South